Hello everyone. In this video, I am going to talk about one of the most awaited topic, which is Azure OpenAI's rate limit mechanics. So let's understand what is this rate limit and what are the reasons behind the particular error which we must have seen many times during our question and answers with our chatbots. So let's first understand the two key concepts which are associated with this rate limit. And the first one is TPM and the second one is RPM. So TPM is short for tokens per minute, and it is like a 1 minute window, and it tells that in this 1 minute window you can utilize only these many number of tokens. Whereas when we are talking about RPM, it is requests per minute. So it tells that 1000 TPM equal to 6 RPM, which means that in a minute you can send 6 requests, at max 6 requests, which ultimately leads to somewhere around 10 seconds per request. So whenever you are sending a request very fast, let's say lesser than 10 seconds, then you should or you would be able to see that error message, which is nothing but our 429 error, and it looks something like this. So this error says that request to create a completion of for the chat message operation under OpenAI API version this have exceeded call rate limit of your quota, which is S0 pricing tier in my case. So you may see your own pricing tier, but this is the error which you will see whenever you are getting this rate limit error. Now, why it is happening? Like, why do we need these parameters like TPM and RPM? And the reason behind this is we know that this LLM works on the basis of prompt, and this whenever we are sending a request, we are sending prompt along with some data, and then we are getting the response. And there is one key parameter which is max tokens, which we usually mention, and if you are not mentioning there, it will just take some default value of it. So what happens when we are sending our prompt and the max token parameter to make a call to an API? So now when we are dealing with APIs, this is like obvious that we should be aware of what type of data we are getting or what is the size of the response we are getting, because until and unless we are sure what kind of response or what type of data, the size of data, then we cannot utilize our resources properly. We have these constraints just because we want to monitor the bandwidth issues, or we want to worry about some of the resources, let's say database. So if you are getting a huge response, how you are going to save it into your database or how it will travel across the network. So all these constraints are there, and that's the reason they have this max token parameters. So TPM is here to monitor that max token. So you should not exceed those many number of tokens in any given request. And that's the reason we need these TPM. And when we are working with models like Azure OpenAI or OpenAI, in that case, these are the key factors we should consider. Like, we cannot send a whole book of response in one shot. So that's the reason we have this TPM. In a nutshell, I can say that whenever you are working with APIs, you should be aware that what size of response you are getting, and that size is constrained by this particular parameter, which is TPM. And RPM is definitely required because we don't want to flood our server with the request. We need some constraint which will tell that, okay, request cannot come faster than this particular rate. So that's the reason we have these two parameters. Let's quickly understand this discussion with some validations. So I'm going to Azure OpenAI Studio. So here you can see that under the deployments, I have already deployed a model, and which is having the rate limit of 1000. So whenever you are deploying a model, let me quickly try this out again. So let's say you are taking 3.5 Turbo 16K, and under deployment you are giving some name, but under the options you will see that at the bottom there is something called tokens per minute rate. So right now the default one, which is the quota for my model, is 120K, and this is the thing which I have set it to just 1000 because we cannot go below 1000. So I'm just considering 1000, and once I will click on create, you will see something like this. So this is my model name here, this is my capacity, and here you can say rate limit 1000. So if I'm using this particular model in an playground, let me quickly just say some message, hello. Immediately I will again shoot a message, and you can see that we end up with this error. And the reason behind this is, like I said, you should follow the TPM and the RPM rules. So definitely you may be within the limit of thousands, but still you violated the rule in which we are saying that send request every 10 seconds, and in this case I send this request immediately within 10 seconds. So there are two requests within 10 seconds, and the second one end up with this particular error. So this is how you can control your error. So you just make sure that whatever you are taking your rate limit, just use the scroll bar to adjust this based on your requirement, based on your scenario. Now the question here is, how can we handle this particular problem? So there are a few best practices which you can follow. The first one is keep your max tokens to be optimal. So you cannot keep large enough, you cannot keep so large that it will eat up all your cost, and neither you can keep it so small that it cannot accommodate your response and the request quota. So keep that optimal and make sure that you are getting your appropriate responses. Second thing is, you can increase the quota limit assigned to your model. So if you're not sure from where to do, I can quickly show you. So this is the quota here. On the left hand side, you can click on these and then you can increase your quota by clicking on this request quota thing. So this is one way to increase your quota. Let's say your default limit is not working for you or not sufficient, then go ahead and increase the limit. Next thing is, which is very popular, is implementing the retry logic. So sometimes you are sending requests so frequently, then it will just throw you that error. In that case, you can put retry logic and then shoot out your queued queries whenever the 10-second window is out. And next, and the most important, which is one of my favorites, is just consider fallback options. So let's say although your retry is in place and still things are not working, and then in that case what you can do, you can choose some fallback options. Like let's say you are using 3.5 turbo, now you can use GPT-4 32K as your fallback option, or you can choose GPT-4 8K, and whenever things are back to normal you can switch back to your 3.5 turbo. So because these individual models have their own buckets of these quota, so even if you exhaust 3.5 turbo, you can quickly move on to GPT-4 and then keep your system moving. So these are the few things which you remember. I hope you find this video useful, and thanks for watching.